What's up, ladies and non-ladies? Here we are with the last piece of Serial Killer's runes. We're going to be doing the dark monsters and then a couple 5 stars that got left out of the other ones.
We have my Bella, who I use for relatively little nowadays. My Bella kind of got eclipsed by my Emma for most things. I use Bella occasionally in like a dragon speed comp. I used to use her a lot. Well, I used to use her, period, in my Necro team. I've been playing around with Amarna in her place. Either way works totally fine. Bella is really nice on a couple TOA floors, mainly Artemil. Realistically, as crazy as this sounds, the most use my Bella gets is to fight Katarina teams in Guild War defense. I like to bring 2 strippers, so I'll bring my Bella and my Emma, and usually a bulldozer. That gives me 2 chances to strip the Katarina, and then 1 chance with the bulldozer to one-shot the Katarina, and if they don't have a second threat, I win. But your Bella is going to want to be violent. She gains a lot from violent. She procs a relatively large amount from violent, and she has very nice buttons. She has a super awesome heal, a super awesome strip, and a super awesome auto attack, so she gains a lot from cycling turns. You're going to want her speed hit point, and you're going to want her violent something. Violent Revenge is very strong. Mine's Violent Broken just to get stats. Violent Focus is something that my Bella is quite often. You want her very tanky. You want her probably in the 60% accuracy range if you're going to be using her for PvP, or the 55% accuracy range if you're using her in a Dragon's Face team. And if you're using her in raids, you're going to kind of skew things around a little bit to get her some more resistance. What I actually like the idea of using Bella for, which I don't see very often, is she makes a very strong AD monster if you can get her 30,000 hit points and put her on double Nemesis Will. She will ruin lives by interrupting a Tushin team. If she gets a turn, not only is she going to heal enough to screw your YOLO team up, she's also going to push the rest of her team up, potentially enough to steal the turn and really screw with you. I think she has a lot more potential as a replacement for like an Ariel or a that other chick that's always Praha, that's always double Nemesis. I don't see her used like that a lot. I think she can fill the role very well. If you were going to do that with her, you would want her double Nemesis Will. Darion is set up kind of on a hybrid-y build right now that I'm pretty happy with. This Darion is hit point, crit damage, hit point. It will frontline tank raids. It does decent damage when it crits. The problem with this Darion is the crit rate is a little bit too low to make me happy for Guild War usage. And I really like a damage Darion on Violent. I definitely couldn't get the stats on Violent, nor do I really want him violenting in raids. So this is what I ended up with as a Darion where I can use it for damage when need be. But his main job is raids, and then I'm just squeaking a little bit more damage out of him for raids. The main reason he's in raids, though, is for his glorious, sexy passive. Here is Amarna, my other sexy, beautiful raid beast. Oh, look at that. They're right on top of each other, Amarna and Nikki. Amarna recently got buffed and is now broken, stupidly overpowered in raids. He is, like, they just went apeshit with this guy. His third is glorious. It is a full cleanse. It is a heal for 30% of his attack point. It says and recovers their hit points by 30% each and doesn't specify, but it heals them for 30% of his hit points. So it heals squishy targets almost all the way. It works very, very nicely. He's in my Necro team now, and it's really funny to see him like just lay on hands one of my liches or something. Or if someone dies, he can pull them back up. The fact that his heal is a cleanse, a Emma-styled AoE heal, and an AoE revive is just straight up broken. Combined with the fact that his skill 2 is a very strong brand that scales against enemy hit points, and his number 1 is a very strong hit points with a relatively weak armor break on it. But they just tacked the armor break on for free onto a very strong heal block. Super, super excellent monster. I would say he's a super obvious candidate for violent runes, and I think you're going to want him either speed hit point, or speed hit point defense, but you lose a lot of his heal for speed hit point defense, so I would not recommend doing that unless you absolutely had to get him tanky enough to tank frontline raids. That is the only reason I would put a defense rune on him, and I really would say that that is probably a terrible idea. You want him tanky enough to tank raids, and then you want him as fast as possible, and ideally 70% resistance. I'm just shy of that a little bit, so 68 is close enough, but I would like 70%. And I am in the camp of only needing 15% accuracy for raids, and that is where my Amarna sees most of his use, so his accuracy is pretty low. I don't use Aria for anything because Gildong is perfect and you don't need her skills anymore. If you had a time machine, Aria is fucking amazing. I've toyed around with using her in certain stuff. If you're going to use her, Violent or Despair are probably the options, but you just don't need her auto attack sleep when Gildong's AoE stunning the whole universe. And her AoE attack speed drop is decent, but Spectra's does the same thing and doesn't proc, revenges or passives from like a Jewel Tan or something like that. Aria used to be the queen of TOA. I don't think she's needed anymore unless you're using a shitty stunner. If Veromos is the best stunner you have, just because the game hasn't given you a Verad, a Water Homo, a Gildong, or a Wound Hack, then Aria can add quite a bit to your TOA teams. Eshir is a monster that I've tried to build a few times and can't get the stats that I want, so I don't use. He's an amazing monster, but I want him hit point, crit damage, hit point. I want him on like 40,000 hit points, and I want him 80-something% crit rate, decent crit damage, and 40-ish% accuracy, and I've never been able to put those stats together, so I always make this subpar Eshir that I'm not happy with and end up not using. Groggo is a sexy, sexy beast. Right now, I've just kind of moved him away from his vampire set that I was testing out. I did not decide that vampire is crappy, but I did decide that my vampire runes that I gave him were crappy. I sacrificed way too many stats for more or less unneeded healing. I pretty much require a set of will runes on Groggo because of his glorious self-immunity. If you one set of will runes on him will allow him to cast this and then give you 3 turns of immunity. Or 2 turns actually. I think it might only be... Oh no, it is 3 turns of immunity on a 4-turn cooldown. You don't get 100% uptime on that. I think that might actually be a mistake there. Okay, no, it is a 4-turn cooldown with 3 turns of defense buff and immunity, just like it says. And 1 set of will runes will allow you to get that up, so it has exponentially more value than just the single turn. I recently put Destroy on him, and I cannot fathom going away from that. I love having Destroy on this monster. He ends up in a lot of bruisery type situations, and this allows you to forgo bringing an armor break or a damage dealer and just bruiser your way through them. So mine will pretty much, unless I come across something new, I can't imagine getting rid of Will, and I can't imagine getting rid of Destroy, so that prevents all of the 4 set bonuses, And ideally he would have probably a second destroy set, or like a guard or blade, something else giving him useful stats. I just couldn't make that happen, so we ended up will destroy broken, and my Groggo is defense crit damage defense, which I think is the only way to build a Groggo. Groggo does not gain a whole lot from hit points. In fact, in some cases he can lose usability from hit points because of his passive. If Groggo has 60,000 hit points, someone can deal 15,000 damage to him, and at that point you have to heal 15,000 points of damage to break even again. If Groggo has 10,000 hit points, someone can only deal 2,000 damage to him, and then it becomes extremely easy with, say, an Emma to heal through 5 attacks worth of damage, or to throw a bubble up ahead of time, just like when using a cookie or a Kmoon, to absorb 3 or 4 attacks worth of damage. You can absorb multiple Lagmaron nukes with one Emma bubble because of his glorious passive. The more hit points you have, the less you're able to do that. Because of the super immunity, you also don't need to worry about bombs too much. Even if a bomb goes up, it doesn't do any damage, or it can't do more than 20% of your damage because of the passive. So I'm a firm believer of just stacking defense on him, kind of ignoring hit points, and then getting crit rate, crit damage, and accuracy up as high as possible. Resistance has a little bit of value, mostly just to ignore strips. That's about all you're going to get out of resistance on him. If I could boost some of these stats, I would make him like 40 speed faster. I would love to just get more turns out of him. I think he is tanky enough. I think his crit rate is high enough and his damage is high enough. I would maybe give him like 10 more accuracy, but not super worried about that. And my next focus would be to just slap like 40 more speed on him, so that he would get more turns to do all of his glorious, beautiful sexiness. Then we got Nikki, my trophy wife. She is the shiniest or rarest thing I have. I've built her a few different ways over the past. Currently, she is set up on Violent, and she is rune speed attack hit points. She does 0.0 damage like this, but she can frontline tank R5, which I have 5 frontline R5 tankable monsters. The nice thing about being able to do it with Nikki is that gives me the option to rotate through them if need be. If I were to say want to pull Darion out for some testing, or pull Panda out for a different leader skill, I can move Nikki into the front, still maintain my 4-man front line, and then throw like a Tsarian in the back to get his leader skill, his resistance leader skill, or something like that. That is why she is capable of frontline R5 tanking. At the same time, she still does a pretty sizable heal with her attack, with just the one attack rune on 4. She still heals for a very nice amount. She just doesn't have any crit rate or crit damage, so she doesn't do a whole lot of damage. She is a healer and a dispeller, so my goal is 70% resistance. I came up shy on this build by a little bit, but not too bad. And by the way, guys, the reason 70% is the goal is because I plan on having a 30% resistance lead in every raid team I'm at. So my 70 base plus the 30% lead, now I'm at 100%, which is where I want to be on ideally everyone, really, but especially my healers, my cleansers, my debuffers, all the important people in your raid team. It might be a good idea to have a lot more accuracy on your Nikki, especially if you're using her in PvP. My Nikki gets used mostly in raids, where 15% seems to be the number you need, so she's pretty close to that. She can't sleep the raid boss, so that doesn't matter anyway, and then it's just her heal block going up every 4 turns, so I didn't feel that it was worth lowering her hit points or her attack, her defense or her speed, or the resistance for accuracy, so I did not. So she is Violent Energy, just to stay alive. Violent Revenge is probably a decent setup, especially if she's built attack crit damage attack like she used to be. I had her attack crit damage attack and kept her in the back for a long time. She healed for a lot more and did pretty acceptable damage. She did amazing, quote, healer damage, but she did like almost decent damage, like DPS unit damage, all while being, you know, relatively fast and healing and dispelling and bringing all kinds of sexy stuff. I may end up going back to an attack crit damage attack build at some point. It all depends on what I do with the rest of my raid frontline. We've got a Veromos, who I use basically exclusively for 2-manning Dragon's 10, or sometimes 3-manning Dragon's 10. I will either 2-man it with Emma and Veromos, or 3-man it with Emma, Veromos, and Fire Panda, and then use the other 2 or 3 slots to level fodder. Particularly, I've been doing that a lot with fusion monsters. I've skilled up like 1.5 full Lucians for free by leveling those monsters in Dragon's 10. Mine is speed, defense, defense. I would probably recommend to build an average Veromos speed hit point, or if he's not on your AD or your Guild War defense, I would probably recommend to build him speed, hit points, defense, just for maximal tankiness. Mine ended up speed, defense, defense, because of the rest of the stats. I wanted him to be relatively resistant, relatively fast, and relatively accurate, and in order to make that happen while keeping him on violent, he had to be defense on 4 and 6, because I did not have focus runes that were hit points, and I needed the focus runes to get his accuracy where I wanted it. My Zinc gets used pretty exclusively for anti-Lucian teams. I'll bring my Bastet, my Zinc, and my Lucian, and if their Theomars doesn't have will runes, my Zinc will apply his beneficial effect block, and then my Lucian will kill their Theo without it being able to put Endure on itself. Works very nice. I recently got my Zinc to Despair, and my Despair is defense crit damage defense. He's been defense crit damage defense for, I think, ever, and he's also been relatively fast considering that he's got defense on too. The kind of lacking spot with him is accuracy, but the main guy that I'm trying to debuff here is Theomars, and most Theomarses have very trash resistance. So, and his Heap of Ashes is a triple hit, so he's relatively good. Actually, he's pretty amazing at getting that buff block up. He's very reliable as a way to kill Theomars, as long as they don't have will runes. My Basalt gets used almost exclusively in TOA. Very occasionally I will use her in Guild Wars for something weird. I used to use her a lot in the old style Hall of Heroes, but that's not so much a issue anymore. I still use her in the new Hall of Heroes just because I bring my TOA team to the new style Hall of Heroes. My Basalt does her job very well without a lot of rune requirements, so she kind of gets shafted sometimes. She is on Violent Revenge, and she is speed hit point. I don't even have this rune powered up because it's not a rune that I love. I don't want to waste the mana to power this rune up because I don't like the subs, and it's a 5-star rune, but it's filling the set for me, so it's doing her job. I would want my Bastet to be relatively fast. It should be faster than the Mav for sure, and then it needs to be relatively tanky, so it might end up being slower than, say, like a Beretta or a Gildong. In my case, it is slower than both of them. You want a decent amount of hit points and a decent amount of defense and a decent amount of accuracy, mainly so that you can land this taunt like a boss. You want to be taunting as much stuff as you can to prevent them from using scary damage abilities. Because you're taunting a lot of stuff, you're going to get hit a lot, which is why you want to be tanky. And this revenge set is extremely undervalued, I think, by most people. Relatively often, my Basalt will have a taunt on something. That thing will hit my Basalt. My Basalt will revenge it and reapply the taunt. And I just got another free turn of crowd control. It is very, very bueno. Highly recommended if you can squeeze a revenge set onto Basalt. It does some pretty cool stuff when it procs in TOA. I just built a Tark. He is my latest monster. Not sure what I'm going to do with him, but he is speed, crit damage, attack. And the naked Verde and the naked chilling that I have are due to this Tark playing around with their runes. I'm probably going to try to make something happen in a Giants and a Dragons team. I just haven't decided exactly what yet. My Megan, I think, is the last guy in here. Megan and Qeefseneuef. 2 more, and then we'll go into my storage. Megan is on double Nemesis Will. Actually, I broke the second Nemesis. She was double Nemesis Will. Currently, she is single Nemesis Will, which is plenty enough to still get the anti-Leo juice. That is the only thing I use this chick for. I'll take her against Leos. Leos will hit her because she'll be the only water monster there. That will allow the Nemesis rune to proc, and I won't get my attack bar knocked back because I have will runes, and then my Megan will be guaranteed second turn. My Megan will push the rest of my team, and because everyone's speed is normalized, my whole team will go until I kill their Leo. And it's really nice to either slap 2 Lucians with her, or to slap, say, like a Copper and a Bulldozer and a Kali, and I make really awesome things happen in both Arena and Guild Wars attacks against enemy Leos on defense. She is speed, hit point, defense. I changed her runes around a little bit, but her runes are not maxed because they do not need to be. She does her job extremely well as is. You'll notice her accuracy is relatively low because I do not use her in Dragons for her buff block. She is not very fast because I do not use her for first turn stealing attempts. I only use her to soak Leos and then steal turns on the rest of my team. Last guy with runes over here is my Qeefseneuef. He is used exclusively in my Qeefseneuef Kali Katarina team. All 3 of them are relatively slow. All 3 of them are on will, and I have 3 will sets on the team between them. My Qeefseneuef is defense, hit point. I might consider making him speed at some point, but the big problem with that is that that puts a gap between the Qeefseneuef and the Kali and the Katarina and opens up people to strip me. The way it is right now, I'm safe to fight that team against single target strips as long as it's going to strip one of the other 2 monsters. I can then reapply my buff or apply my buff with the Qeefseneuef. So I do like all 3 of them being slow or all 3 of them being fast. I can't afford to make my Katarina or my Kali fast right now, so my Qeefseneuef is slow as well. That is all of the monsters that currently have runes on them. Let me look through my storage. Randy got stripped because I found myself using him less and less, but he makes a relatively decent copper partner. I just like Emma more. Rakaja is a very strong raid healer. He is a smart healer, and he is a huge healer. He drops monster heals. His big problem is that his base stats are junk. So it takes a lot of runes to make him tanky enough to frontline and fast enough to put out solid heal numbers. My Shimte no longer has runes because I found myself not using him after I got the Sam, but a Shimte should be runed attack crit damage attack. My Shimte was runed speed crit damage attack for a long time because that was the only way I could get him fast enough. A Tarq should be runed exactly like a Basalt, and a Tarq should be used for TOA if you do not have a Basalt. And I think that is about all of the people that I regularly use. No one else over here has been used, at least regularly, in a long time. Oh my god, that was 1,000 hours. Thank you for sticking through all that. Hopefully some of that helped some of you. And I think I'm gonna go not be here anymore.
Alright guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this thing. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you did enjoy yourself, please let me know with that subscribe button. See you next time, guys.